Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Good morning, football fans. Welcome to Room 442. Sarah Pereira, Albert Vatanian, Michael Singh, James Sharman here with you. A big show. Premier League, FA Cup, red card, yellow card with this guy hosting. We thought we'd get some better red card, yellow cards. I jest, it's still Mikey's segment, but now and again you give the guy a chance to sit on the panel himself and show us how good he is at answering red card, yellow
That's
card.
it. That's what we actually need. We need fresh ideas.
Fresh ideas
coming from
exactly.
your analysts now.
It's like using your assistant coach. You know, it's a bit like Ted Lasso, actually. Your Coach Beard.
I'll take that. And
there you go. Don't ruin it. Albert's the one guy in North America who hasn't watched.
I don't know who that
is. Champions League, by the way, this week. Well, I'd say it's fantastic. I mean, we're kind of missing a little bit of drama and theatre at this point, but the semi-finals are just around the corner. But some great results, big results. Real Madrid taking care of Chelsea 2-0, advancing 4-0. An all-Italian affair saw Milan take care of Napoli 2-1 over both legs. Bayern Munich tied City 1-1, but City very much in control of that one. And Inter 3, Benfica 3. The Italians advancing to the semi-finals. AC Milan, Inter Milan from the San Siro. The first leg goes May the 10th. And I guess the big one as far as the big sexy super clubs, Real Madrid, Man City. That one goes on May 9th and the second leg on May the 17th. Let's start with that one, shall we? Let's talk some Champions League, shall we? Real Madrid, Man City, a rematch, of course, from last year's semi-finals when City should have progressed to the final. But, of course, Rodrigo had other ideas, essentially in injury time, 2 goals. Real Madrid advance. Who would you say is the favourite in this one? Or who should be the favourite in this one?
Oh, man, that's a great question. Like, Real Madrid in the Champions League, we know their history. They're a different breed when it comes to Champions League football. They've been there, they've done that. You look at just last season, as you just referred to, they went through Chelsea, they went through City, and ultimately they went through Liverpool in the final when everybody essentially counted them out. So it's tough to count out Real Madrid once again. That being said, Manchester City, I think right now, at this current moment, Manchester City's the best football team in the world.
I absolutely
So when
agree.
you're talking about favorites heading into this match, it's Manchester City for me.
But we've been here so many times with Manchester City, and we've said this around the same time. The best football team in the world is Manchester City, and they fall short for whatever reason. I'm with you though in terms of not going against Real Madrid. This is what they do. That seems to be like their mantra now.
Yeah.
Like from everybody around the club, this is what Real Madrid does. This is the moment that they play for. They get into the semis, they get into the knockout stages of the Champions League, and they just get it done. It doesn't matter who that they're playing. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter if they go down because they have the ability to come back and win games.
Well, let's hear from Pep Guardiola, who actually agrees exactly with what you just said there. Here is Pep Guardiola.
I had the feeling that I think yesterday 11 semi-finals in 30 years, so chapeau, heads off. We are 3 and looks like, wow, what we have done is incredible to reach Champions League semi-final. And I think all the clubs around the world had the feeling that if you want to win this competition, you have to beat Real Madrid right now. Before it was Barcelona, now it's Real Madrid.
So he sneaked
Had to
that
get that
Barcelona
in.
reference in there. But it's a valid point. Although, I mean, the way City are playing these days, they are playing more physically. It's almost the defence is more impressive than their attack, which is really impressive.
Yeah, well, it's Pep Guardiola, what he's doing, shifting the back there, making a 3-man defense, putting John Stones in the midfield, and it's been fantastic to watch. I completely agree with what all of you guys have said. Man City, I think, are the better-looking club. They're also the deeper club. Their bench is fantastic. But yeah, you can't rule out Real Madrid, but at the same time, this is not the same Real Madrid we've been seeing in the past couple of years. They don't look as threatening. Yes, this is their tournament, but look at them in La Liga, even going down in the Champions League. I mean, they don't, I don't know. Last year they went down, 3 times and they came back?
Karim Benzema too was a
Yeah,
big
Karim
factor
Benzema has been a bit injured, but I think then you have guys like Vinny, Fede, Rodrigo that are all stepping up. So that's the thing. They have a great team, but there is something a little less sparkly about them this year.
And City, for a team without fullbacks, though, have to now deal with 2 of the best wingers in world football, in Vinny and Rodrigo as well. So it should be interesting. The Milan derby, I find this just romantically beautiful. It should be a semi-final of a European Championship, and seems to maybe mean more to Inter now, given that Juve have had their points deduction rescinded, so Juve dropped down further away from top 4 football. They've got to win this thing, it seems now, to qualify for next season.
Yeah, you know what? And Italian clubs, not just in the Champions League, you look at the Europa League as well, and you see Roma and you see Juve, as you just mentioned, in the semifinals of that competition.
And the Conference League, Fiorentina.
There you go.
Don't forget the Conference League.
Yeah, never forget the Conference League. So, the Serie A is really making a statement for themselves that, hey, you might have fallen behind the last couple of years, but we're right back here, and nothing better to spark that than a good old-fashioned Milan derby with, as you mentioned, Inter has some pressure on them to really, if they want to get into this competition next season, this might be the only way they can do it is by winning the Champions League.
I like AC a lot in this matchup, actually, because I said this earlier when they beat Spurs. I feel like they have the system in the team for knockout football. They sit back and they have the pace on the counterattack. They have big, strong center backs who also have pace. Theo Hernandez has been fantastic. Rafael Leao, Olivier Giroud, who's Girouding, like you said on a show a couple weeks ago. I think AC, I really actually believe they can win the Champions League. If I'm going for a dog, I go AC Milan.
Just from the counterattacking and the pace.
Absolutely. And they know how to shut down teams, which is great.
They know how to frustrate teams.
They don't press
too, like
high.
they
They
did with
sit
Tottenham.
back.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you get teams that are really offensive and can score a lot. That's how you frustrate them, and that's how you can beat them.
They had the longest odds at the start of the quarterfinals, too.
Yeah.
AC Milan had the worst odds to win all of this now. They could be a dark horse here.
What do we always say, right? The best team never wins the Champions League. It's rare, right? It happens, but Real Madrid was the best
Liverpool
team.
won a few years ago.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Were they the best team? Probably.
But it's cup football, right?
Yeah.
Cup football is different to league
It is
football.
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And no away goals too. Totally different tournament now, I feel.
If City win this year, I think you can say they are the best team, though, in that case. Assuming, of course, they can find a way to get the treble.
Yeah.
They're still a long way from that. A lot of challenges there. But I think these are great semi-finals, personally. Bit of a shame that Napoli didn't make it to the semi-final. What a great season they've had so far, but they're kind of running out of steam, it seems, at this point. It's been a long season, and they haven't been in that position for a very long time. Okay, time for a break. When we come back, though, it's to the FA Cup. City back in action against Sheffield United. Yes, we'll get the in-depth analysis in the blades from these guys. That'll be funny.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Is it doable? Everything is doable, but doesn't mean it makes it any easier. It's Wednesday evening now, and Saturday is Sheffield. We can't look at what happens at Arsenal. I want to play the FA Cup final. I only won it once, so I want to win it again, and I want to beat Sheffield. And obviously, there's a big game in Arsenal after that, but we've got other priorities on Saturday, and then we can concentrate on what we need to do next week. But obviously we're going to try and win everything, but that's a hard gesture. But I think it's a privilege to be able to fight for everything, and that's it.
Yeah, it's the FA Cup semi-finals. The first one sees Man City against of League Championship fame Sheffield United, on the brink actually of promotion at the moment. But talking about the treble there, of course, this time last year we're talking about the quadruple for Liverpool. They got 2 trophies in the end. It's so difficult. City could still win nothing this season, but I suspect they'll win something.
Yeah, like I just said, I think Manchester City are the best team in world football this year. They finally starting to click. We were waiting all year for this team to finally click, and it really feels like now's the time. They've really rounded into form. I keep wondering whenever I hear Manchester City in the FA Cup, how long ago was it that Pep Guardiola was saying that he doesn't care about, these cup competitions? He doesn't care about winning the Premier League. How long ago was that? It was just like 3 months ago. I wonder if that's still the case.
I think he would trade in a lot of those trophies for a Champions League trophy.
Yeah, I think he would too.
I think that's what he means by that when he does say those
Yeah,
things.
for sure. I think we'll see by his 11 later today.
That's the big question.
He's
right?
played the same team for a couple of games now, the same 11, this new system which is working so well. At some point you've got to rest him. And with respect to the Blades, who are having a great season, City should take care of them even with their B team, which is better than most A teams, let's be honest. How do you deal with Erling Haaland if he plays this Saturday? Well, Paul Heckingbottom of Sheffield United. Why are you laughing? Because Heckingbottom's a funny name? It's a great English name.
Don't do that.
Here is Paul Heckingbottom on Erling Braut Haaland.
I don't think you can ignore him. He's that dangerous. I don't think you can ignore him. But he certainly relies on others to supply because of his game. So there's certain spaces you have to defend different when he's in the team, whether that's space in behind or when the ball's wide, we get that. But likewise, if we just solely focus on that, there'll be other areas that hurt us, you know. So yeah, it's the most intense test you can probably have, I think, in world football. You know, we're probably asking Bayern Munich and they're saying the same. So yeah, we get what we're up against and we know how tough it's going to be. But we've got to enjoy it. We've got to enjoy it. We'll enjoy the occasion and enjoy playing against these players.
Yeah, you also said there's probably no one else on the planet thinking we'll be in the final, but that's not to say we can't do it. They can't do it. Although, I mean, is that fair? I mean, listen, this is a team, City, who are in fine company. Very few teams across Europe have ever won the treble, for example, right? Some very good legendary teams there. City might join them. If you're Paul Heckingbottom of Sheffield United, let's let Sarah talk about Paul Heckingbottom a little bit here. She enjoys his name so much. If you are Sheffield United, you know, you can win promotion on Wednesday, right? By beating West Brom. That's more important than this match.
Yeah, for sure.
In fact, I asked some Blades fans I know, and they are diehard Blades fans. And I said, what would you rather have? Would you rather have promotion or an FA Cup victory? And they said promotion, which I found really sad and the anti-romantic, because it should be about cups and trophies, I think. But they need to get back in the Premier League, I think.
Yeah, playing in like the top league right now in the world is definitely more important than one FA Cup. Like, let's be honest. And the thing is, they're not just playing any team in this tournament. They're playing arguably the best team in the world right now in Manchester City. So they're going into it thinking about that game, you know, in the back of their minds as well against West Brom midweek. I don't know. It's tough to kind of separate that, I think, for the players and for the coach, because this is daunting for them. And I think the priority should be Wednesday. Don't fold. I'm not saying that, but you know what I mean? Like, they know in the back of their minds they have a very, very important game on Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't think the players will care about that so much. They're going to go and play the game and try and win the game, right? And I think it'd be huge for Sheffield United, but it is sad to say, you know, this is just the fan now of the new era of football. Is the Premier League and promotion is more important. Finishing in the top four is more important than certain trophies, unfortunately. But do you remember when Sheffield's first came into the Premier League after a long layoff? Was that their first season when they came up with Chris Wilder?
With Neil Warnock, you mean? Wait, like back in...
No, I'm thinking
the
of Wilder.
most recent time.
Yeah, okay.
Wilder.
And that first season, they were incredible. They were the story of the Premier League season, and it does so much for the club. So I can understand why fans feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Mikey, where are you putting your money on this one?
So, I agree with you guys. Manchester City, they're going to win this game. But there's no value straight up on betting Manchester City. Obviously, they're like minus 770 right now on North Star Bets to win the match. There's heavy favorites at Wembley. But I like Manchester City to win, and you combine that with under 3.5 goals, and that gives you plus money. And the reason why, like, normally any other day, this fixture, I'm taking the over goals. But as you just mentioned, Manchester City have to rotate their squad at some point. And there might not be a better opportunity than now against Sheffield United to rotate their squad. Also, it's at Wembley. We all know Sheffield, this is their game this season, right? You know they're going to be up for it. They're going to fight. They're going to battle. Will they succeed? Probably not. But I do feel like they'll manage to put up a better fight than Burnley did last time out. So you couple all those things in, and just a random stat, I'm not sure it means anything, but Sheffield have won all 4 of their FA Cup ties against Manchester City. So history is
there you have it. Last one
on
back in 2007.
Yeah.
Brighton against Manchester United is the other semi-final that goes on Sunday. Listen, United coming off an embarrassing loss to Sevilla in the Europa League. Some bad mistakes. Harry Maguire, David De Gea with a couple of absolute howlers. But not to worry, just listen to Erik ten Hag.
I had this question many times now, after City, after Liverpool, after Brentford, and every time we bounce back. And so in that perspective, this team has character. So we have very good mental skills, but in some occasions we are not there.
So many opportunities to bounce back this season. So many embarrassing results. Listen, they're in top 4. They're in the FA Cup semi-final, not in the Europa League right now. But
already have a trophy.
Have a trophy, yeah. Pretty good season. But come on, give it to us. But I mean, he makes a valid point, right? This team has shown character and resolve so far this season. But Against Brighton, I mean, the bookies have United as favourites.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think Brighton should be favourites for this one, given their recent form and the way they're playing in general.
Yeah, I think it's a great bet. I'd even bet Brighton at plus 450 to win the FA Cup. I know that's a stretch. They're probably going to play Manchester United, Manchester City in the final if they get through. But based on the way Brighton's playing, they play really well against teams in the current top six. And I think if you're putting all of your eggs into that FA Cup basket, which may not be the case, they're relatively safe from where they are. And I think they'll finish in a European position, whether that be Europa League or the Conference League. But yeah, I mean, you look at United and what they did against Sevilla, not having, Martinez at the back there is huge. No confidence in the center backs and limited confidence, I think, at the moment in De Gea. I think Brighton can really take advantage of this United team at this moment.
Where are you putting your money, Sarah?
And that's why I'm picking Brighton
Nice.
for this one. They can bounce back and they have character, but they don't have Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane.
It's huge.
Rashford is not 100% yet, as he only played half the match against Sevilla. This team is shaken right now, and I think this is the perfect opportunity for a very strong Brighton, who have only lost 1 in their last 9 in all competitions, to take advantage of a shaken United, and I can see Brighton winning this. Brighton at 145 plus money, I like it a lot.
We're talking about Brighton winning the FA Cup and beating Manchester United.
What a story.
Wow.
What a story, right? I mean, I was looking at their history, right? They've won nothing. They've won nothing ever, apart from some really weird tournaments that don't really count. All right? They're not a big club that have enjoying this moment in the sun, and hopefully it continues, because the way they play the football is brilliant too. But I mean, they are kind of the bright light of the Premier League at the moment, just the way they play and the results they're getting.
Yeah, De Zerbi's got them going in such a good way. Their star is emerging for that team. It's going to be a really interesting summer for Brighton, but before they get there, maybe they have an opportunity here for some silverware. But you guys are wrong. Manchester United, they're going to get their talisman. I've always said this, their most important player. And as much as Casemiro and Lisandro Martinez and Varane have been really good for them, it's Bruno Fernandes. And he wasn't part of that squad against Sevilla. And I think that was a byproduct of what we saw on the pitch. Now, as Teran Hag said, they've shown the ability to bounce back. Will they? You know what? Brighton's a tough test at Wembley. We'll see what happens.
Absolutely, yeah. Listen, we'll see. It should be a great match, actually. I'm looking forward to this one for sure. We will find out on Sunday. All right, when we come back, it is off to the Premier League. Yes, a reduced schedule given the FA Cup issues this weekend, but some big games, including Newcastle against Spurs.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Here's the table entering this round of matches in the Premier League. The battle really looks to be, in many fronts, Newcastle Spurs for that all-important Champions League spot. It's wide open. Don't dismiss Villa just yet, by the way, because they've been quite the story in recent weeks. At the back end, I mean, it's so ugly, of course, for so many teams here. It's so tight. Forest playing Liverpool. They're in danger right now. But, I mean, any of what? I think I'm going to rule Wolves out at this point. I think they're safe. But Bournemouth down, it's an absolute crap shot. I don't know who's going to win this thing at this point. But moving on to the other board here, top of the table, back to Newcastle, and Eddie Howe of Newcastle fame, doing a great job this season. Some called for him to be fired about a month ago, and here we are now, back in contention for top 4 football. Here is Eddie Howe.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I mean, it was an uncharacteristic performance from us, I think. We, this season, have been so consistent, home and away. I think the players have always, not always won the games, but we've given, we've had certain hallmarks within the team and within the performance that you'd go, that's Newcastle this season. It's always been there. It's probably the first time that we didn't deliver those hallmarks that have brought us all the success we've had. So maybe a good time to regroup and refocus all our energies on our performance with some key games to come.
So they're coming off that loss to Aston Villa last weekend, up against Spurs. Albert, a diehard Spurs fan, just said to us off camera, it would be a miracle for Spurs to win this game. A miracle.
Yeah.
Isn't that a bit of a stretch?
No, not really. I mean, based on what's going on at Spurs right now and based on the way that they're playing and going away to St. James's Park, the only team to beat Newcastle there last 22 home matches, Liverpool did it twice. It's very difficult to go there and do that. You really have to be organized and compact and have a true identity of how you want to play. And Spurs don't have that. But Newcastle does. Plus, they'll have the added motivation of going 6 points up on Spurs and the St. James's Park faithful. I just don't see Spurs winning this game at all.
Do you think Newcastle should be favoured to finish top 4 at this point? points-wise, they're in there right now, but given Spurs' inconsistencies.
Yeah, definitely. And Spurs have one of the toughest schedules too. When you look at the rest of the matches remaining, well, Newcastle's, as you see up there, it's pretty favorable. Obviously Arsenal's a tough one, Brighton will be a tough one, and then we never know with Chelsea. But the rest of those fixtures look pretty appetizing if I'm Newcastle and Eddie Howe there. So I think they should be favored. Obviously, they have that game in hand, as Albert just mentioned too. They need a bounce back game though. That performance against Villa was. It's a match that could really derail the momentum that you have and the season that you have and the work that you've put together there. That they need to bounce back in a big way. That being said, Spurs, we talked about this off camera. You never know what you're gonna get from them. Right here, we're saying, yeah, you know what, going to St. James's Park, it's likely gonna be Newcastle. But these are the types of conversations we always have before a Spurs performance comes and just shocks
they're
us.
toast. I mean, you can't. Where are you going to get this confidence from when losing to Bournemouth at home 3-2? Like that can't happen.
What
right?
a crazy game that was.
And to speak on Newcastle, okay, that Villa loss, it was disappointing. But before that, they ripped off 5 wins in a row. This is a very good Newcastle team. Let's not forget that this is a top 4 side, and that's why they're going to be pushing for the top 4 come the end of the season.
Yeah, Daniel Levy keeps searching for a new manager for next season. The good news this week was that apparently Julian Nagelsmann's pulled out of the Chelsea running. So is Luis Enrique. Pochettino now the favorite for the Chelsea job. One of those 3 might end up at Spurs, though, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, they could. I think a lot needs to change at Spurs, though. It's been how long since this team has been, I guess, consistent. I don't even want to say, like, winning trophies. Do you know what I mean? I just mean consistently, like, good and competitive. And also with the likes of Harry Kane, is he going to be there next year? We don't know. So I think they kind of need to go through a bit of a rebuild, I think. And starting with a new manager is definitely a good place to start. I think right now Spurs are just shaken. And like you mentioned with identity with Newcastle, Spurs are the exact opposite of that. They have no idea who they are. They're just shaken. I think if I'm a Spurs player, I just want the season to end at this point. I just let's just get into the summer transfer window and make some moves.
Like you sack Antonio Conte and you're playing the exact same style that has been unsuccessful, which is very frustrating. But back to those managers, I think it's unlikely Nagelsmann or Enrique go to Spurs. I think if you were to pick any of the 3, probably Pochettino. For some reason, Daniel Levy said that the big sticking point with Enrique is he has no Premier League experience, which means he probably feels the same way about Nagelsmann, which means the only guy there with Premier League experience is Pochettino. Process of
but he also knows the reality of being Spurs manager and the funds. So why would he go there?
That's a great point. It's so true. I mean, you know that if you bring in Poch, this was a guy who wasn't able to buy in 2 transfer windows and still had a top 4 finish. I mean, not many managers are going to deal with that.
I mean, he's a great coach. I want to see him what he could do at Chelsea, for example.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you need Poch-type players to play his system. It's so high tempo. Does Chelsea have them? Probably within their 87-man squad. There's players that can play that system.
Absolutely.
But maybe it'll be someone off the charts entirely who get these jobs. But right now, there's 3 sexy names.
That's the thing. And, shifting things back to Tottenham in general as a whole, on Thursday, we were in Toronto. We were listening to Masai Ujiri's press conference about the Raptors, talking about Nick Nurse, and he was asked a question about how do you reset the culture of a team. And his response to that was, you make shocking changes. You make decisions that cause friction. You make culture-shifting changes. And I think we've seen too many managers that have been fired at Tottenham. You need to do something else that shakes that boat. And if that means selling Harry Kane, sell Harry Kane. If that means Daniel Levy maybe has to go, maybe he's the one that has to go. You need to do something different than just bringing a new manager, in my opinion.
I don't think selling Kane is like a shocking thing. I think it's a foregone conclusion. Maybe getting rid of Daniel Levy, but at the same time, you look at what he's done for the club. I mean, when he took over Spurs, the goal was to keep Spurs in the Premier League. And now they're a top 6.
With a lovely stadium.
Yeah.
You can't forget that work as well. Very quickly, your bet for this one?
Newcastle and under 3.5 goals. I just think they're going to keep it tight. I can see a 2-0, maybe even a 2-1. That's why I went to under 3.5. And just to bring it up to plus money as well.
Okay. Brentford up against Aston Villa. Listen, Villa have been the story in recent weeks, playing great football. Brentford was one of the stories for much of this season, but I think are running out of steam a little bit at this point. But here is Unai Emery, the Villa coach, on the mindset and what his players need to have for the run-in.
Brentford on Saturday is now the last matches we play away, I think the most difficult challenge we will have. They only lost 2 matches at home against Arsenal long time ago and against Newcastle, but very very difficult match for both. And I think now Brentford is the team after Newcastle, both similar, the best defensively in the structure they are playing.
Looking at Villa's running, though, they're playing Man United still, Spurs, Liverpool, Brighton, Newcastle. We're going to find out if they're for real. Do you think they're for real?
Yeah, I mean, I love watching these guys, especially Ollie Watkins. He's been fantastic. They're on a unbeaten run right now. They haven't lost since February 18th to league leaders Arsenal, which isn't a bad, loss. But I'm just happy that it's worked out for them with Unai Emery. It took a little bit, but it always does with a new manager, right? And now this team is really performing well and playing good football and winning games that, maybe we didn't think they could. And I think we're seeing kind of the opposite of Brentford right now. Brentford started off so strong, and they're still top 10, which is great for them. But I think they're kind of slowly just descending a little bit.
Yeah, thanks. Fair enough. I have actually Villa tie no bet for this one. Villa's unbeaten in 8 games away from home at the moment. Won 5 straight overall, 4 clean sheets. Brentford winless in 5, but just 2 losses on the season at home. So they're a good home team. So I'm not sure I'm going to go full out on Villa winning this game. I think they might, but I love that tie no bet because I could see a draw in this one for sure. Villa, Unai Emery, the most underrated manager in world football. Let's move on now to Liverpool against Nottingham Forest. Forest, of course, in some trouble at the moment. The Reds flying high, beat Leeds 6-1 on Monday. But I mean, listen, in recent weeks we've seen flashes of the old Liverpool. I think it's fair to say, Mikey. Is this year an aberration, do you think? Or is there something more toxic at play here?
Well, my prediction is throughout the rest of the season, we'll see Liverpool make it seem like this year was a bit of an anomaly. Just because their schedule the rest of the year is one of the easiest schedules when you compare it to the rest of the league. And they've played a lot of tough matches, but they do have some favorable matches coming up. And this one at home is definitely one of those matches. I think major changes still need to happen with this club. And I don't want the rest of the season to give the ownership group false hope. Because I do think that they need to make some significant overhauls, especially when it comes to some of the older players on that team. So, to answer your question, is this an aberration? No, I don't think it is. I think this is closer to probably what they are.
What do you have for this one?
I actually, at home, Liverpool to win, plus, once again, the over-under is really high, under 3.5 goals against a team in Forest that don't score a lot of goals. So give me Liverpool and under 3.5.
Okay, let's quickly look at some of the other games this weekend in the Premier League. Just 3 more actually to choose from. Sarah, Palace against Everton.
Listen, Palace, I mean, it's plus money. Why would I not go for that? Everton, fighting to stay in the Prem for sure, but they've been absolutely awful. We thought Sean Dyche would come in and change that, but it doesn't.
They've improved, but
yeah, but I feel like Crystal Palace as well has improved since Patrick Vieira has left. So I think for them, they're on a bit of a streak. They're going to keep that going. I don't know. It's pretty simple to me. I think Palace is just a better team, and Everton, I'm scared they're going to go
and
down.
Everton aren't the same away from Goodison Park, right? That's a big one.
Yeah,
don't overthink it.
Albert?
Yeah, so Leicester and Wolves, what an exciting game. I love what Lopetegui's doing with Wolves from an attacking sense, but I looked at both numbers, and the biggest number was the draw, and that's what I'm going with.
All right. Can't wait for that one. Eh?
Yeah, there you go.
It's going to be
That's
fantastic.
incredible analysis right there, is what that is.
So I have a Bournemouth-West Ham game, speaking of exciting games. I'm taking Bournemouth in this one, though. Listen, they won 2 straight. They won 3
I love this bet.
or 4 overall. They're desperate. It's a relegation battle. West Ham look really good against Ghent in Sarah's Conference League, which is great, of course. But yeah, Bournemouth, they keep surprising me, right? I keep rolling them out. And then Gary O'Neill's got something happening there right now. And if they do survive, he won't win Manager of the Year, replacing Scott Parker back in, was it August?
My God,
September?
forever.
Remember Scott Parker? He won't win it because they're struggling, of course. But man, what a great job he's done so far. A guy that you'd never have assumed would be doing a good job as a Premier League football manager. Gary O'Neill. Love it. All right, so we come back. It's my segment. It's red card, yellow card. A much better red card, yellow card than previous weeks.
Improved, new and improved.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Welcome back to Room 442. Time now for red card, yellow card, play on, featuring yours truly as host. I'm actually excited about this. My first time hosting this. It's Mikey's segment. and then we'll put a poll up later on as to who's the better host.
Do the
Okay,
right
I'm
thing.
joking. You're the
Thanks, Jared.
All right, let's get started, shall we? Lots of rumours this past week about Alphonso Davies. His contract's coming up relatively soon. There are rumours about him going to Real Madrid. I saw one today about Man City sniffing around. They do need a left back after all. But here it is. Alphonso Davies will re-sign with Bayern Munich. Mikey, start with you.
Play on. I am 99% sure that Alphonso Davies will play with Bayern Munich next season. Now, will he re-sign his contract with Bayern Munich? Should he? Yeah, I think he should. He has everything that you can absolutely ask for. You have the trust of multiple coaches who have come in. You have a system that suits him. He's found success there, and he's still very young. We're not talking about this being potentially his last contract where he can cash in. There's still a lot of growing for him to do and maturing for him to do as a footballer, and there aren't many environments better than Bayern Munich. So for me, absolutely play on.
Where's that 99% come from? I'm just curious. Do you have an inside source there, Mikey?
No comment.
Oh, wow. See, now I want to go play on too because of that 99%. But whatever. I'm going to go on the fence. I'm going to go with that 1%. I think when you're linked to big clubs, he's already at a massive club, but when you're linked to Real Madrid, potentially Manchester City, imagine being Alphonso Davies, a young Canadian, having a chance to go play in the Premier League for Manchester City under Pep Guardiola. How do you turn that down? So that's why I'm on the fence. I could see him staying. Tuchel loves him. It's true, though. Every manager that goes there, they love Alphonso Davies. It says a lot about the player, but I'm on the fence. I'm going to say yellow card to that one.
Yeah, I mean, he is so concerned with his brand off the pitch as well, right? Where can he grow that the most, right? Is he better in Germany? Is he better going to Spain or the Premier League? Sarah, what are you thinking?
Just to play devil's advocate, why not? Let's go
right.
red card. Come to La Liga. I can see him playing for Real Madrid for sure. Can you imagine Vinny and Alphonso Davies on the
That is scary, isn't it?
Terrifying as a Barcelona fan. I hope it doesn't happen, but he would fit in so well there because they have Nacho right now. They need somebody young, new, fast. And I'm a bit worried about what's going to happen to Bayern Munich this summer because I think they're going through a lot of turmoil now. We've seen what has happened since Thomas Tuchel has been in. They're out of 2 competitions. I don't know if Oliver Kahn is going to still be there. I think a lot of there's going to be a cleaning of the house, I feel. So with that, maybe we also see some players go if they're end of contract because they either want to go or maybe who knows. But for devil's advocate, why I could see him slot into Real Madrid actually easily.
Alaba's there too, and there's some familiarity there too.
Yeah,
There you go.
Great point. All right, moving on. This past week, the Canadian Championship kicked off. A big surprise. TSS Rovers beating Valor. That's a huge story. Valor of the CPL losing to a low division team. TSS Rovers supporter-owned club. All right, here's no respect.
And zero.
I'm not doing
absolute
You're
zero
smirking.
respect.
Come on. Here's a question, because I know you don't agree with it. A non-MLS team will win the Canadian Championship this season. Mikey, let's start with you.
It's a red card for me. And as much as I love the way that the Canadian Premier League is growing, as much as I love the story of TSS Rovers, you still have Vancouver Whitecaps and then one of Toronto FC and Montreal that are going to be advancing to potentially the semifinals if Vancouver can win their leg against York United. This might be the best year for a Canadian Premier League team to win the Canadian Championship, but I just don't see it happening over teams like Montreal, Vancouver, and Toronto FC who have designated players.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Listen, I'm not so tapped in with this, but I'm going to say that, the Canadian Premier League is just not up to par yet with MLS. And imagine if a team like Toronto FC makes it to the final. How are they going to get past the team that has Insigne and Bernadeschi, Michael Bradley, if he plays, and Sean Johnson? But I'm just saying, when you make that step to that level, it's very difficult to do. We're just talking about Sheffield United and Manchester City. Very similar, but I think more of a gap as well.
But we have seen CPL teams beat MLS teams in the past, in recent years.
Hamilton,
Not
right?
often.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
When
it
was
can
last
happen.
time a CPL team won?
The actual championship?
They've
haven't,
never won
obviously.
the championship.
Yeah.
Oh, they've never.
It's a brand new league,
Yeah, it's a new league.
right?
So then I'll.
What, so it can never happen?
Well, and what I'll add though is
Next
like
question.
what I'll add is TFC, they're hungry for silverware too. Like they haven't won an actual trophy since 2018, I believe was the last time they won one, if you're not counting 2020's like COVID Canadian Championship. So they want their players to feel the taste of silverware. So you mentioned Will Insigne play, Will Bernadeschi play. Yeah, I think absolutely they're going to do everything to win that Canadian Championship.
Yeah, they will for sure. All right, next up, we kind of spoke about Spurs earlier. Daniel Levy came out this week and said that Harry Kane can still win trophies at Spurs and should stay at Spurs. Right, that's Daniel Levy, the chairman. Right, so you must now he's going to bank him, obviously. Right, Harry Kane can win trophies at Spurs and should re-sign. It's kind of a play on how we discussed it before, but Dan Levy says he should.
Sorry, Albert. I don't think Harry Kane should stay at Spurs. I think we need to see him grow as a player, continue breaking these records that he's breaking. We know he's one of the best right now, and I kind of want to see him do that at a more competitive club because I think Harry Kane doesn't get the recognition that he deserves because he's playing at Spurs, to be quite frank. So I think we could see him even get better than he already is if he's playing at a higher level squad. I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine.
I actually felt so bad saying that.
Why? No, I'll disagree that about his recognition. He's talked about as one of the best strikers in world football for the last 5-6 years. So, but I'm gonna go red card. At this moment in time, there's no indication that Tottenham can win any sort of title in any competition. And if you're Harry Kane, based on what's happening and surrounding around Spurs, no coach, no true identity, no lack of direction, you can't stay there. You just can't. If you really want to win trophies, it's not at Spurs.
Do you think if he stayed there and won the Europa League, would that satisfy him?
No. I don't
Him
think so.
personally?
Yeah.
Probably not. Would it feel better? Yeah, sure. But I'm going to go play on here. And part of it's to play devil's advocate, but part of it is also because it's a dying breed. You don't see it very often nowadays. It's the one club type of player. And for you to go down in history as a club type of player and then have the ability to potentially end this super, super, super long trophy drought with Tottenham, if you're the guy that's able to do that, imagine how you'd be recognized and renowned as not only in Tottenham, not only as a player there, but also just in the world. You'd be looked at differently than other greats who have gone and jumped on to bigger ships. So I'm going to say play on just from a legacy standpoint. I think he can actually carve out a bigger legacy if he stays with Tottenham than if he goes somewhere else.
The problem with that is he's already recognized as that. Like Daniel Levy was just talking about building a statue outside of Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, right? It's difficult. I know you guys agree. How do you see when is Tottenham going to win a trophy? As of right now.
Listen, there's always
with no
league
manager.
cups.
They're not going to win the Premier
listen,
League.
we're
They're
seeing
not going to win the
Sheffield
Champions
United
League.
in a semi-final.
Yeah, crazy.
Right? You do get some odd results. And Spurs is a big enough club, it wouldn't be an odd result to get into a final at least.
And you have
then
to
it's
look at
one game, who knows?
Even the managers you just had, right? Mourinho comes in, wins everywhere, doesn't win there, goes to Roma, wins the Conference League, and now is in the semifinals of the Europa League. You have Conte who wins everywhere, comes into Spurs and can't win. At some point, you gotta be Harry Kane and be like, maybe it's just this club. Maybe I gotta go
If
somewhere else.
Poch returns to
That might be the
White
only
Hart
way.
Lane.
That might be the only way that he stays.
is that how he stays and how they
I
win
think so.
trophies? Can they win trophies with Poch in charge?
I don't know. I don't think so. They haven't done it before. It depends on the recruitment and all that stuff.
They
but
came close.
Kane has come out and said he wants to be a one club man. But when the club doesn't match your ambitions, you got to move on.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Napoli, great season in arguably a weakened Italian Serie A, but they crashed out, of course, in the Champions League in the quarterfinals this week. Have we all overrated Napoli this season?
Ooh.
Crazy.
Oh,
Aw. Don't say that about Kvaratskhelia.
Who?
Kvaratskhelia?
Who?
Kvaratskhelia.
Spell that.
Kvaratskhelia.
I think you hit
Did she
it bang
get it?
on. I'm pretty
Well
sure she
done.
did,
That's
yeah.
impressive.
Congratulations.
All right,
Thank you very
you win
much.
this red card, yellow card just for that.
Thank you very much. But
Impressive.
no, we can't disregard Napoli. Listen, it happens. We see teams. You said this earlier in the show. Sometimes the best team doesn't always win the Champions League. Champions League is so tricky because it's tournament-style football, but look at what they've done in the Serie A. They've won the Scudetto already, like not technically, but we know how far ahead they are. They were pulled apart last year. Their team completely shifted. They brought in a bunch of new players, and they've done so well, and we haven't seen Napoli thrive since Maradona. That's crazy to say. So, you know what? No, Napoli, we will still remember them as one of the best stories this year, I think.
Okay, the question is, have we overrated Napoli this season? Play on, absolutely. We
What?
definitely have overrated them.
No way.
We were talking about Napoli like they are the best team in the world at times. We were talking about them. We were predicting them to go on and win the UEFA
Do you not think they're
Champions
one of the best
League.
teams in the world right now?
They have had one of the best seasons.
Exactly.
And-
So we're talking about this year. We're talking about
Yeah,
this season.
but-
They're one of the best.
But we're also like, what would you say? They're like a top 5 club in the world?
I think so.
Overrating
Top 5.
Napoli. Right there.
I think so.
Well, I guess they
Look
made
at
the
what
final
they've
8 of the
done.
Champions League.
I mean, they're going
They made
wire.
it- yeah,
they're
they-
going wire to wire to win Serie A. I mean, we can't dismiss one of the
but the
best
Serie
leagues
A
in
is
the
a
world.
weird one this year. Milan's taking a step back.
At the same time, you have two Serie A
Juve was
teams.
13th, now they're third.
No,
Yeah,
but at
right?
the same time, you have two Serie A teams in the semifinal of the Champions League.
No,
and
that-
two
yeah.
in the
Can't be
Europa
that bad
League
of a
and
league.
one in the Conference
But
League.
the,
No,
the
come on.
problem is that I feel like, and I said this before, maybe they're running out of steam. They peaked too soon because they ran away with the league and they had injuries throughout the season. And then they got to the Champions League and they're missing key players. And then Frank Zambo-Anguissa gets, suspended for the second leg. It's hard to keep up that pace that they were at. But in terms of overrated, may we have overrated them a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, no way.
Inter Milan's in the semi-finals of Coppa Italia, right? 1-1 against Juventus in the first leg. If Inter win Coppa Italia,
Absolutely not.
and then win
No.
the Champions League, is it a better
Oh,
season than
wow.
Napoli winning the Scudetto?
Yeah, right? It's the Champions League they're winning.
What? Okay, I can't have this. Domestic league is so much more important than the
But
Champions
the
League.
Champions
East
League and Coppa Italia, that's huge.
yeah,
That's huge.
it's definitely huge, but I still think that Napoli winning the Scudetto is so important. And I know a lot of Italian fans would prefer the Scudetto over the UCL.
Sure.
I don't know. I still think
That's
we
a-
can't just disregard it.
Napoli's
I don't think it's gonna happen. Maybe if it does, we can
Yeah.
have this conversation in a couple weeks.
They're a really romantic story, right? You fall in love with Napoli. How can you not? They're one of the best stories in the world. But if you look at it objectively, remove yourself from loving that team and the story and everything that goes into it, you win both of those competitions. Is it a better season than one Scudetto? Probably in the grand scheme. When was the last time an Italian club won the Champions League?
Inter Milan,
Inter,
right?
yeah.
Inter
Treble.
Milan, 2009,
11.
right?
What time was it? Yeah. When it-
Someone-
Mourinho.
Someone wins a Scudetto every year.
Yeah. It's
Does
funny
it-
when you talk
Wait,
about
but-
romantic teams. It's
But
always
you
Italian
could say
teams
the
that are
same thing
romantic,
about the
right?
Premier League from when they had their drought, when Liverpool won, whenever that was, a couple years ago, and then the last time a Premier League team won. Leagues go through droughts. I don't think that's fair to say.
Well, Chelsea won recently as well, right? In the Prem.
Worst UCL ever.
But yeah, it's funny when we talk about these romantic names and teams. They're always Italian teams, right? Like in any Italian team, you can say, "Oh, it's a romantic." Right? It could be Napoli or Juventus. It could be anyone, right? It's different in England, right? You can't say Leicester is romantic,
No,
right?
you can't.
Or West Ham. Oh, my heart melts. It's just different, isn't it? Something about Italian teams.
Yeah.
They bring it. Okay, here's one for you. Atletico Madrid have emerged as the story in La Liga this season. They played really, really well in recent weeks. I think it's unbeaten in 13 games. Barca dominating, of course. Is Atletico Madrid actually becoming the story?
No, I don't think so whatsoever. As somebody who watches La Liga, because like you mentioned, Barcelona obviously crushing it, but I think their defensive record as well. Or you could argue the story could be how Madrid are performing in La Liga so poorly compared to the Champions League. But I think both those two stories are much better than Atletico because I think bigger clubs and it's just more interesting. Atletico, we're still not really sure how they're going to finish. They started off kind of poor this season and they're still in third. So I have no clue. I don't know.
20 seconds, quickly.
I agree with Sarah.
Okay.
Thanks.
You guys are all wrong. It's Kyle Larin and Real Valladolid.
They're the
best
story.
story in La
I love
Liga.
it.
Let's go.
Absolutely. Good for Carl Aaron. All right, time for another break. It's the fifth block, the one where we have no idea what's going to happen, where we're going, but we'll think of something in the next 2 minutes, I promise.
Room 442 is presented by North Star Bets. That's a win.
Welcome back to Room 442. Almost finished. I want to ask a question to Sarah. I forgot to ask her actually during the last round. Will a non-MLS team win the Canadian Championship?
Listen, anything
This
is
season.
possible with how poorly Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver have started this season. And we have to remember tournament football. We talked about it in Champions League. Same thing, right?
All right.
1 game, 2 games, so it could happen.
Well played.
No? Okay.
Well played.
That's a decent
Fair.
answer. Very well thought through.
Which Canadian Premier League team do you think has the best shot of winning it?
Cavalry.
Ooh,
Why?
well, they got...
Because it's the
The-
first
the
team.
team- the team that just got
crashed out
eliminated.
to,
Pacific.
Pacific, yeah.
Good. There you
Yeah,
go.
see, where we're learning about this stuff.
I
You
love
are
the Pacific story though, but like Pacific's gonna be facing Rovers, and it's like
amazing.
a lot of people are alluding it to like Wrexham, and because Wrexham's obviously supposed to be a little bit of a fan-owned club. I know Ryan Reynolds and McLean are there, but they have that kind of environment. Rovers are kind of similar in that vibe, and it's gonna be like a local derby
Yeah,
there.
supporters owned.
Yeah,
right?
supporters
They haven't
owned,
got
exactly.
benefactors though, like Wrexham.
Yeah,
Need a
they're
big
better
name.
than Wrexham. Though.
Talking about romantic names, how England doesn't have romantic names. well, Ellie, our producer Ellie, came out and said, no, Wolverhampton Wanderers is a very romantic name. And the way
rolls
Ellie
off
says
the
it,
tongue,
it
yeah.
does sound
It
romantic.
sounds
actually.
beautiful, yeah.
There's a team in Norway called FL Fart.
Yeah.
Right, you know it.
I'd buy that
obviously.
kit. I'd wear the kit.
Would you?
I would, of course.
Yeah.
Why not? FL Fought.
Fart. It's a great name, isn't it? Newell's Old Boys.
No, no, there's
no.
so many better Argentinians.
There's Young Boys in Switzerland.
Switzerland,
Bern.
yeah.
Man, boys.
Yep.
BSC Young Boys. They made
That's
a run
right.
to the
They play in
Champions
the-
League.
they play
did.
in
10,
Yeah.
And they play in the Wankdorf Stadium.
Of course, you know that, Charles.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Young boys playing the Wankdorf. It's true. There's nothing humorous about it, Sarah. It's an absolute fact.
Oh boy.
We
Daniel Jebison.
didn't get Daniel Jefferson.
Thank you for bringing him up.
Take him away.
We didn't give him enough love because
Any love, actually, because we
any
didn't
love
mention it.
at all. Yeah. Because his Sheffield United are going up against Manchester City. So just shout out quickly to Daniel Jebison, who has played about 500 minutes so far this year with
Premier
Sheffield.
League goal scorer in 2020, 2021. With
Never
Sheffield
forget.
United. Yeah.
Never forget. Daniel
I
Jebison.
want to know who he played against. I can't remember that.
There's the wave of talent coming up for Canada in time for.
But we
the
actually
World
don't know
Cup.
if he's going to play for Canada.
No, he
Yeah.
isn't committed yet. Is he?
He hasn't
That's
committed
right.
yet.
Valid point.
So like half shout out to Daniel Jefferson. Shout out if you commit.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to Blades. Upset this weekend. Let's go.
Yeah, listen, imagine that. Blaze beating Man City would be one of the great upsets, I think, in FA Cup history. It really would. Even though they're League Championship and Premier League, that does happen now and again, but it's City.
Yeah.
And no one can beat City
No
the way they're
way.
playing right now. But it's a fun weekend of action, actually. FA Cup, Premier League, a ton of stuff to get to next week in Room 442, every day, Monday through Friday.
Room 442 is presented by North.